Hello. Is this also being live streamed? Is this a hybrid?
Yes.
Oh, so hello. And to the people who will catch the recording later. So my name is Amber. I live in the Bay Area now, but I'm from Louisiana. My people date back in those lands to about the 1700s. Before then, they hailed from Haiti, from parts of West Africa, Senegal, Mali, Nigeria, the Congo, Central Africa, as well as parts of Europe, a little bit of the Iberian Peninsula, a lot of France. And when they landed on Turtle Island in the New World, they commingled with the Chitimacha tribe in the southeastern United States. So, yeah, this is all relational. So pardon me or bear with me while I introduce and lay out the groundwork in this way. I was initiated into an eco-consciousness through Hurricane Katrina. In 2005, I was living in New Orleans and I was a wee baby, about 20 years old. And that rupture is what moved me over to the Bay Area. I didn't have the critical consciousness at the time to understand what was going on, but I knew one thing in those early days of organizing and social justice work around the right to return. I knew that the water was not the biggest threat to us. We have lived with hurricanes and storms for generations upon generations. I used to fancy going outside and in the middle of the storm watching the trees. I loved it. I love the wind. We'll get more into that in a minute. But there was another, I guess you would term it a man-made disaster, intangible, that actually created more harm. Naomi Klein, that's her name. I think she wrote the book Disaster Capitalism in the Wake of the Storm, about both Katrina and the Gulf phenomena. And that disaster capitalism gave me language, gave me a context to understand what was actually creating the trauma. The trauma wasn't the storm, the trauma was the will of the human family that prioritized ownership of land. Hashtag 45 bought up a lot of land in the wake of Katrina. We know who he is, our current president. Among other things, forced displacement, the tearing down of public housing, and a lot. And that was my awakening. That sort of was the impetus that set me on this journey of sacred scholarship, to give voice and find language to describe this unseen force that had a major hand in quality of life, in our individual and collective experiences. I would later figure out that it was colonialism, or what scholars and thinkers call now the residue of colonialism. The name is coloniality. So this is the term used when, let's use another country, because if I ask you when did the colonizing presence leave North America, who has an answer? When did the English leave? Okay, never. There were formal decolonial political processes in other parts of the world. And so this philosophical framework, theoretical framework, comes out of mainly the global South, South America, parts of Africa, India, mainly Africa and South America, where in Nigeria, in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, the British did indeed leave. France did leave Senegal at some point. And so even after those colonial administrations had left officially, the residue of their presence remained. Their logic, the values, the relational orientation to other human beings, to the land, to nature, to labor, etc. So it was interesting. I caught the tail end of the keynote, Peter's presentation, and his premise around domination patterns versus relational patterns, I must admit, I was surprised that we didn't have a clear articulation of that. And it's okay, full compassion on this one. But there are things we can point to. And this sort of frames my offering today. Modernity has inscribed patterns of domination onto psyches and bodies. That's what we have inherited in the last 600 to 800 years. I appreciate that he stated, yes, a 5,000-year arc of time and history, agricultural practices where we might glimpse domination peering its head, but not every culture practiced agriculture in a posture of domination. Many still held a relational belief system and value system. So what we have now is modernity. Let's see, one key pillar. Let's go with the Bible. God has given us dominion over beasts, fish, birds of the air, land, deemed the children of the divine, this God, speaking of the Numinous, for us to do as we please. Fast forward a millennia and a half, manifest destiny, and some of the logic or ideas that encouraged westward expansion or even the establishing of North America. These doctrines, these theological principles were embedded in those institutional practices, in those laws that were created. And that matters because the structure we live in shapes the content within, consciously or unconsciously, mostly unconsciously. They're the waters that we swim in. So, in that sacred scholarship journey, the critical consciousness rupture where I discovered, because I felt it in the moment, it felt like what was happening in New Orleans in the wake of Katrina was like a slave trade on steroids, like just massive trading, no empathy, no compassion. And later on in my dissertation work, I would name these the ghosts of our institutions. My research was in maternal health care in Black women, major ghosts in that institution. But we're walking around with these ghosts all the time. And that's what my work tends to in decolonizing the psyche. It tends to those ghosts. So I would discover and devote my life eventually to the practice of Ifa, which is a West African spiritual tradition out of Yorubaland, Nigeria. This knowledge system was carried across the big water, across the Atlantic, among people in the African diaspora, and embodied knowledge that planted and rerooted in the Caribbean, Haiti, Cuba, Trinidad, Jamaica. In South America, most well-known, Brazil, and it's called candomblé there, parts of Venezuela, and it landed in the United States. And in that tradition, first, it's an earth-based tradition. It's an earth-based spiritual practice. It's taken as common sense that God, the divine, the sacred, the numinous, expresses itself in nature. It's accessed through nature. So through being a student and respect to my teachers in West Africa and the United States and Spain, being a student of Ifa, I came to a different perspective on the storm, because within Ifa, storms are governed by a deity. Their name within that language, the Yoruba language, is Orishas. Orishas could be, if you'd like, paralleled with archetypes or patterns of the psyche or the collective, or a type of consciousness, a type of frequency. And so storms belong to an Orisha called Oya. Her name translates to the Great Terror, a warrior deity that helps you with transformation and change. So moving through the firewall of my own communal trauma, I came to accept and embrace Hurricane Katrina. I now call her the glory wave called Katrina. And that's what my work in Decolonizing the Psyche is all about. It's about centering new symbols that help us make meaning of the world differently. The symbols that we have inherited are all living within the scope and landscape of modernity. You know, even in depth psychology, most of the archetypes, the mythos we look toward are predominantly Greek mythology, a little bit of Asia, a little bit. But people all over the world have had ways of orienting themselves towards something bigger than themselves. Okay. So, 45, right? Okay. So I want to offer you an experiential practice, an embodied practice using song and a little bit of story to invite you into cultivating a sensitivity around how these consciousnesses reside in your own bodies, hoping to contribute to this dissolution between the falsehood of separation between human beings and nature. That's also a product of modernity. We're not separate from nature. I want to invite you to just take a little inhale and exhale. And as you keep breathing, consider this. Expand your awareness to presence tree right beside you. That every time you inhale, you're getting a gift from tree. And every time you exhale, you are gifting something back. It's so automatic, so seamless, often taken for granted. But in every moment, the radical truth is it's all relational. All right. So at your own pace, coming back into the room fully, and we'll enter this space again later on. But I want to name a couple of things to position this offering in through a somatic lens. The first is in Ifa, named Lucumi in Cuba, named Candomblé in Brazil. In Ifa, the way we pray is through song. It's through orature, the reciting of prose or scripture. And the way we honor, like when I go out to the river, I have a song for the river. If the river is rough and fast, I have a particular song. If she's slow and subtle, I have another song. So we pray through song. Ifa is a corpus that's roughly 8,000 years old. Let that sink in for a moment. And so taking the sacred scholarship journey, moving through somatics and all that, I learned about the vagus nerve. Resma Menakem mentions it in his work, My Grandmother's Hands. He calls it the soul nerve. When I discovered it, because I've been a singer my whole life, and then, he lists some of the ways it's stimulated. The vagus nerve, this major nerve running through the center of the body that connects to all of the major organs, and people are working with it around trauma healing and trauma therapy, because stimulating the vagus nerve kicks in your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest, your regeneration and recuperation function in the body. It's the opposite of the fight, flight, freeze function, right? And so he lists some of the ways to stimulate it and says humming and song. I said, what? So we've been doing this for a long time then. So that's what I want to offer you later on in this space today. Part of my work in decolonizing the psyche includes, I call it C3, cultivating critical consciousness. And given what was unpacked a bit earlier with the keynote, this tension between domination and relationality, I hope this meets you all well. Cultivating the critical consciousness around situating ourselves. Where are we right now? What is this polycrisis we keep talking about? Polycrisis does signal this principle of entanglement because one crisis is not operating in isolation. There are multiple and they're working in partnership. So it arises from these interactions of multiple systems, and it's not simply a matter of isolated crises. This is what I would attribute to the inheritance of modernity. Modernity's child is the polycrisis. And I name that directly because I want to demystify that. My hope, my sincere hope, is to demystify that. Circling back to the immense power that structures and institutions have on us, it's imperative that we transform our institutions. It's not just an afterthought. That the cultivating of a certain sensibility and awareness of relationship with nature has to go hand in hand with systemic change efforts. So this idea of the numinous, the sacred, the divine, the animating force, something holy. One thing that modernity did too in its whole manifest destiny, domination over land, beasts, fish of the sea, is it stripped nature of the sacred. It had to de-enchant nature in order to dominate it. So this is the process of moving something like this 8,000-year-old body of knowledge and way of being human and in relationship with the world to a margin. And this is just one example. That had to get done. Something else had to get centered. Because if nature was still understood as sacred, divine, and holy, you can't really dominate it in good conscience. And it's also hard to catch on. The spell is hard to catch. Okay. So within all of that, coloniality over the past 400 to 600 years, yes, it included the creating of races from Irish to white, from Senegalese to black, etc. Included slavery, institutionalized dominance over nature, included the age of enlightenment, our hyper-rationality. And I love science, quantum physics especially. So this is no slight no diminishment of the practices. But that happened there. Rationality, scientific and technological progress. And then within there is humanism. This idea that the human is supreme. So taking this theological concept of you have the right to dominate land and sea, etc., and then it just got fortified to the extreme in the Enlightenment era. This is, in my work, I'm an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. Ancestors include both incarnate, or those who have transitioned within one's human family, and the earth, the sea, the mountain. These are the older ancestors. In that work, we talk about this colonial inheritance as a cultural trauma. It's a pain body. I believe it's probably the underlying cause. They call it eco-anxiety. We have a name for it now. It's probably the cause for a lot of our unknown symptoms. Deep depression, that's can't be resolved, deep grief, rather. So this cultural trauma, much like an individual trauma, dysregulates the nervous system within an individual. Cultural trauma dysregulates the nervous system in the collective. So despite many of the briefly named projects that happened during coloniality, a project of terror, despite or because of that project, this ensouled perspective and practice of humanity's relationship with the more than human world did manage to cross the big waters as a form of embodied knowledge. So, as a nature-based practice, Ifa acknowledges the animating forces of the natural world. I mentioned calling them orishas. Another way of looking at this is that the consciousness of water has a name. They call her Yemoja or Oshun. The consciousness of fire has a name. They call them Shango. The consciousness of wind has a name. They call her Oya. The consciousness of earth, of clay, of the mountain has a name. They call him Obatala. And bracket the pronouns because in truth, Obatala is one of many who have an androgynous presentation. In some stories, they are male, and in some stories, they are female, because these expressions of energy are fluid within a spiritual framework. So Ifa expresses the universal principles within an African cultural context. We're supported by Iya Ile, which means Mother Earth beneath our feet. We all have wind in our very lungs. We all need water, Imoja, to carry our life force. We all need the warmth of fire to transform food, to warm our bodies, the consciousness and energy of Shango. Ifa does not seek dominion over nature. It does not support human arrogance. The ancient Odu, which is the name for scriptures or orator, the ancient Odu, the literary corpus of this tradition, speaks of a covenant between plant and animal kingdom with human beings. This covenant, this sacred agreement, was to prevent the various species from greed and exploitation of each other. The entire technology, spiritual technology, is premised on balance and reciprocity. So all of the stories, all of the teachings are about noticing, bringing conscious awareness to when one steps out of right relationship, out of balance, and advice on how to come back in. How do I restore that? Because we're all human. Ifa seeks to realign humanity with nature at its heart. So you heard me mention it in the previous few words, but part of this interrelationship principle within Ifa locates nature's animating force, that thing out there, within our very bodies. You could relate it to the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, as within, so without. So I want to explore this through an embodied practice with each of you. I'm doing pretty good on time. So before stepping in here, I want to name one thing. Modernity demands numbness. You cannot exploit each other, bodies, labor, the land, the earth, if you don't turn off the capacity to feel. So this practice is in the spirit of sensitizing us. The way this will flow is I'm going to sing a song for each of, I have 4 Orishas that I've chosen to bring with me. I'm going to sing a song for each of them after I guide you all into the drop-in space. I'll describe a little bit of their nature, and I'll bring your focused attention to the part of the body where they are concentrated, that they govern or rule, if you will. And what I invite you to do is expand the awareness from the center of your head, our powerful, powerful, and very necessary frontal cortex, our logos nature. The invitation is to expand that awareness to go within that part of your sacred vessel, your body. As you hear the songs, you don't need to know the translation of the words. Just let them cascade over you. I'll offer you the interpretation within the drop-in practice. So wherever you are, just start by getting comfortable, doing whatever you need to do. And bringing in the relationship you invoked initially. Start to follow the rhythm of your own breath. No need to move, make it move in any particular way. And as you breathe, as your conscious awareness expands throughout the body, notice the earth beneath your feet, far below, the minerals, the rocks, the flora, the medicinal herbs, the food and nourishment. Notice the waters quite close to here. Powerful primordial kin called ocean. Noticing the redwoods, the canyons, just allowing your relational field to open up at a rate that's good for you. And coming back to that animating force within the earth, notice your feet on the ground, on the earth. The energy pulsing up through your feet. Living here is the consciousness of Eshu, the Orisha at the crossroads, the one who invokes the power of choice, choosing the path you will walk. The vital force who far and wide spreads. Extend a bit of gratitude to your feet for carrying you, for holding you up. Badasuayo. Omoni alaguana komama kenaidayu. Badasuayo. Omoni alaguana komama kenaidayu. O bara suayu eke eshodara omoni alagona komama kenaida yu Ado etudeo Ado etudeo Baralaiki ado etudeo Ado etudeo Ado etudeo Baralaiki ado etudeo Mojubaishu. As you continue to breathe, flowing with its natural rhythm, notice the pulse and movement of blood flowing up from the feet, flowing throughout your veins, bringing oxygen to all of the parts of your body. The light in the blood. These are the rivers within your own sacred vessel. Very much like the rivers on the earth. The fresh water that keeps you alive. Her name is Oshun. Oshun, the mother of sweetness, of beauty, of art and creation. My mother's house is in the river. She is all powerful. Women who need safety habitually visit her. My mother's house is in the river. Iamile Odo Iamile Odo Bobo Ashe Ishemi Saramawoe Iamile Odo. And as your awareness continues to touch the blood within, just hold an intention in the throne of your heart that you may embody and experience the sweetness of life, the beauty of land, the abundance of clean water, opportunity to share and relate. And continuing to ride the rhythm of your breath, invite your awareness to move up into the head. And I want you to imagine a gold ball floating in the center of your head, shimmering beautifully. This gold ball is the spark of each consciousness within you, called Ori. Each of you carrying unique gifts, talents, sensibilities. Invite that gold ball to expand for a brief moment, filling up your entire head, pushing out all other thoughts, all other preoccupations. And notice what it feels like to be filled up with yourself. The consciousness of Oba Tala, the father of the mountain, owner of the white cloth, the one who carries and guards every single Ori, the consciousness that invokes peace and gentleness, patient, compassionate understanding, moving at the speed of earth. Baba alaye o, Baba alaye o, Baba kweyuro, o shamini olaye o. Okunio Baba, Baba la ye, Baba la ye, Baba kweyuro, o shamini ola ye, o kunio Baba. Gently inviting that expanded gold ball to come back to the size of a lemon. I invite you to imprint this space of non-judgment, of compassion and equanimity that lives in each and every human being. And in these final moments, centering in the breath, journey down with it to your lungs, a storehouse of breath, briefly generating a tone of gratitude in light of our recent global events for the gift of breath. This is the seat of Oya, the great transformer, the one who twists to create, the one who moves us from fear and stagnation states. If it feels comfortable, feel free to place your hands on your rib cage. Ai lo dai au kuo, o lomo de ke yo ayaba. Ai lo dai au kuo, o lomo de ke yo ayaba. Oyade ariwo, oyan saluro sokoto. Oyade mariwo, o mensaluro sokoto. Ai lo daya okuo, o lomo de ke yo ayaba. Ai lo daya okuo, o lomo de ke yo ayaba. Oyade ariwo, oyan saluro sokoto. Oyade mariwo, o mensaluro sokoto. O mensaluro sokoto. O mensaluro sokoto. O mensaluro sokoto. Notice any thought, image, narrative that's common to your awareness right now, and hold it close. Notice what emerged for you here, stimulating the memory of your innate interconnection with all that is. Invite this memory to inscribe itself on your body and psyche. And gently start to bring movement back into your limbs, your shoulders. Move your feet. Orient yourself in the place wherever you're at. And whenever you're ready, rejoining the collective completely. So, in the spirit of relationality and practicing that, I want to open it up. If anyone has something on their heart they want to share, anything that emerged for them, whether you're online or if that's possible, or in the room. Yeah.
Well, first, I will greet you in your Re in a traditional way. Aboru, aboye, aboshishe. And I touch the floor in tradition to honor that the earth is most sacred, that we walk as a sacred earth, and the earth is where we return our ancestors to.
Oh, boato.
And my Ori greets you as Baba Ifalokun, Efuntare Fatun Mishe, and my ancestors on the right and on the left greet you as well. Thank you so much. I think I've been waiting for this all day, maybe all week, all year. Both in the way you set the context, as well as brought forward this 8,000-year-old corpus of knowledge, practice, and relationality. What it evoked in me, in addition to my own Orisha wanting to come on in, was more curiosity about Yoruba as a tonal language and Omo and the power of the word, and how that interacts in the relationship between humans, Orisha, Orumale, the natural world, through this tonal language that is much different than many of the languages we speak now, and Omo as well.
Well, everyone, we're starting with the level 5 question.
Sorry.
There's no coincidences, but it's come up quite often in the last few months. I'm in a show. If anyone wants to go to a show, it's Belly of the Whale. It's at Z Space Theater in San Francisco. But in that process, we've been in these discussions around the power of sound and vibration. And I brought that into my work with clients. So if you're unfamiliar with Hazrat Inayat Khan, I highly recommend you check out all of his works, but one on the music of life and nature. Specifically, it's focused on nature. And so to your question and invitation, I'm no expert on it. I'm still in the journey of discovery. It's been an intuitive process, hence the sacred scholarship declaration, because it's coming from somewhere, probably those Nigerian ancestors and beyond. But it's all frequency, it's all vibration. And science, the scientific world, has been catching up to what indigenous knowledge has asserted for a long time and understood for a long time. One of my favorite bodies of work is on string theory. I forget his name, but looking at like what is the least common denominator of matter or reality. And they went from like atoms to quarks, and then below quarks is these filaments of string, just vibrating string. So science is turning its gaze, its lens to affirm there is something else there that we can't see. It's vibrating, which is what our vocal cords do when we speak or sing. It's air moving through these flaps of skin, to your statement about tone and tonality. And the changing, the pressure, the opening, the closing of that particular aperture, that particular opening, distinguishes the sounds we make. So within the spiritual practice of Ifa and Lukumi, everything from the drum, which is a ceremonial talking agent, to the songs. If you sing a song off pitch, the idea is you're not connecting to the deity. So the precision of how one sort of maneuvers and, yeah, I guess the squeezing, I don't want to say warp, that's the wrong word, but the way that the intentionality around what note is sung, the ability and the capacity to reach that note or reach that rhythm determines your connection with something beyond matter. And it instructs and informs the entire relationship between the human and the divine, or the numinous, something more than human, something sacred. The one I introduced here, brought into the space, Oshun, happens to be one of the most particular. Her songs, the scales are so complicated, and simultaneously she's the deity of the arts. She would parallel Venus in the Greek Roman pantheons, right? Or Aphrodite. The Venusian qualities of beauty, love, singing, but not beauty for vanity's sake. It's beauty as an expression of the immense energy and precision and thought it takes to organize something. Like if you look at an orchid, when we look at things in nature that are just beautiful and they take our breath away, the awe-inspiring parts. You know, something, this is really masterful. The way this was put together, the way the negative space of the white within the orchid contrasts with the dark indigo or the deep hues of blue. That's the kind of beauty, it's the numinosity. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Amber. I do have a comment from the online. It was, if everyone could feel your songs every day, surely there would be peace within Earth. And I also wanted to comment, thank you so much for that. It was beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes. I practice a Native American walk and traditions of the indigenous people. And I also sing, not the greatest singer, but just more Native Lakota and Hopi singing. And but yes, the feeling, that vibration of those songs and the power that they give you to release that energy within. I'm not really sure how else to really share it, but when I sing with my drum and with my people, it's magical, it's transformative, and it's wonderful because it's not just being with them, it's honoring the ancestors and all the ancestors, all the indigenous people that have walked on Turtle Island, but all over the world. And I just want to thank you for your songs. They're so beautiful and just great gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you both for the kind words, wherever you are.
Yeah, I echo that. That was so moving. But I do want to, we have maybe a couple of minutes, and I don't know if anybody else in the room would like to, has a question or wants to share. Oh, over there.
Nothing happened, coincidence. During the break, I just feel the call of the tree wanting me to sit next to it. And your meditation is like, feel attuned with the tree and this reciprocity, and I starts to cry. And from a week ago, one of my friends who practice contemplate, is that the word? And he all of a sudden starts to channel like the rhythm of how to call on the god of the ocean and how to with that dance. And then I start to get a message that I need to build a rain stick out of like a huachuma plant, which I was gifted several months ago. And with that frequency and vibration of the spiral from the source, this archetypal energy starts to really incarnate it in my body. And I'm here, hearing you just speaking all that vibrations from that source. I feel so touched and feel so honored to have this opportunity to just hear and to see that everything is manifesting. God is in red and you are in red. And my last name is Orchid.
It is? That's too many synchronicities. You're gonna have to take one back.
I just
Beautiful.
want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And I love you. You singing like a resonating.
Oh, the call and response.
Yes, yes, I love that, Coyote. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing is done in isolation. So typically in ceremony or just every day in the house, I would sing and then you would sing. We echo each other, which is what Baba was doing by just echoing softly under his breath. So I want to first say we will be having a panel discussion later. And part of what I'm going to build on what I presented here, but specifically focusing on how practitioners of this earth honoring tradition, how it informs their eco-activism work. It's something called sacred activism. Some people have termed it that. Not all practitioners even define themselves as environmentalists or activists, but there's a direct path that I'm going to lift up a few people who are doing that and naming it outright in the world. Now, I want to leave on an optimistic note, and it will be with a song, but the truth is that if these technologies manage to get across the big water and reconstellate themselves in the new world, creolized, hybridized, if you will, then there has got to be a possibility for us to generate transformative change. Generative change is not beyond our reach. This is the power of the imaginal, of the imagination. One of the strategies of coloniality modernity is that it wants to put you in a place of despair. So that's a part of what's in my heart in lifting up these traditions. It's a reminder. They tried to annihilate all the knowledge, what they call in academia epistemicide. They tried to destroy it all. They did not succeed. And so we have an opportunity to reawaken those things within us and push really hard to transform the systems we live in a way that's suitable and aligned with our values, with our ethics, with our deeply embedded understanding that we're interconnected with all of this. So for my own Haitian ancestors, I want to close with this song. Haiti was called the land of 50 nations because there were so many different tribes that were brought to the island of Saint-Domingue. They struggled for a long time for many reasons, slavery being one of them, but also the language barriers. And part of what made them successful in their revolution against the three empires, Spain, Britain, and France, was they created a new language. They created Creole, and they learned how to communicate with themselves. They shared their spiritual traditions with each other. And one of the songs that came out of that collaboration, it's called Annoncer aux anges la glo. It translates to, I'm singing to the angels beneath the water, la glo. And they're asking, angels, help me learn how to change the way you change the rocks. Teach me the art of change. Erode the places that are calcified within my own thinking, the way that water smooths the edge of a stone. So I'll leave you with that. Annoncez aux anges l'agneau, Bako Tsumiwa, Lawe, Lawe. Annoncez aux anges l'agneau, Bako Tsumiwa, Lawe, Lawe. Non, la ville au canier, Créoman des changements. Annoncez aux anges l'agneau, Bako Tsumiwa, Lawe, Lawe. Annoncez aux anges l'agneau, Bako Tsumiwa, Lawe, Lawe. Non, la ville au canier, Créoman des changements. Non, la ville prier, Créoman des changements.